Back in high school, I had this mantra: I can do anything I put my mind to. And I meant it. Like, I really believed it. That delusional, iron-willed certainty that with enough effort and discipline, enough refusal to quit, I could bend reality to my will. And honestly, that belief really got me far. It got me through hard workouts, hard exams, and just difficult seasons where most people would have folded. I wore my willpower like armor. But here's what I didn't see for a very long time. When you're that committed to pushing through, you become blind to a different question entirely. You're so focused on how hard you're pushing that you never stop to ask what you're pushing against. And that blindness, it cost me years. I know, that's not what you want to hear, especially if you've built your entire identity around being someone who pushes through. But what if the thing you're most proud of, your discipline, your work ethic, and your refusal to quit, is actually the thing keeping you stuck? It took me almost 2 decades of grinding to finally learn that. There's a difference between willpower and agency, and most high achievers have plenty of the first, and often sadly at the expense of the second. Annie Duke, former professional poker player, now decision scientist, wrote an entire book about this called Quit. Her core argument is that we're systematically terrible at knowing when to stop. Not because we're weak, but because quitting feels like identity death. She makes this distinction I think about a lot. There's grit, which is valuable persistence, and then there's gritty thinking, staying too long in a losing position because walking away would mean admitting you were wrong. A line that really stuck with me: the opposite of a quitter isn't a winner. It's often someone who should have quit a long time ago. That was me. For years. For over a decade, I ran some variation of a push-pull leg split. Chest and triceps, back and biceps, legs, seasonally a dedicated shoulder day thrown in. Pretty standard. And for that entire decade, I had the same problem. My arms weren't growing. Noticeable imbalance. People would comment on my chest or my shoulders, but my arms clearly lagging. So what did I do? I did what any disciplined person does. I tried harder. Of course, extra sets at the end of my workouts, more reps, more intensity. I told myself I just needed to push through the plateau. And when none of that worked, I told myself a story. I guess I just don't have great arm genetics. That story was comfortable. It meant the problem wasn't my approach, it was just bad luck. And here's what I couldn't see. Every arm workout came after I'd already fried my entire nervous system with heavy compound movements, bench press, rows, overhead press. By the time I got to curls and triceps work, I had nothing left. My mind-muscle connection was just shot. I couldn't make the tension land where it needed to. The architecture was broken, and no amount of willpower was going to fix that. It took me over a decade to try something obvious. Give my arms their own dedicated session. Train them fresh, first thing, not as an afterthought, but as the priority. The result? It was like a different universe. The pump was different. The contraction was different. I could actually feel the muscle working instead of just moving weight through space with momentum. My arms grew more in 6 months than they had in the previous 5 years. Not because I tried harder, but because I finally stopped trying harder at the wrong thing. Now here's the embarrassing part. This wasn't just ignorance. It was resistance. Because changing my approach meant going against everything I'd absorbed from gym culture. The bro science said arms should be an afterthought that grow from all the compound work. Dedicated arm days are for people who don't know really what they're doing. I'd inherited that thinking without ever questioning whether it applied to me, to my body, to my response pattern. So when I finally tried something different, it felt wrong first. Like I was wasting precious gym time. Like I was being soft or something. That's the trap. When you've built your identity around pushing through, changing direction feels like weakness. Stepping back feels like quitting. But it's not quitting. It's the opposite. There's an old military principle. Don't reinforce failure. When a position is lost, you don't keep sending soldiers to die in the same spot. You reassess. You redeploy to where you can actually win. That's not cowardice. That's strategic wisdom. And it applies to everything, not just the gym. In 2022, my co-founders and I quit our jobs to start a robotics company. The vision? Use automation to make healthy food affordable and accessible. Robotic cooking systems. Efficient, scalable, revolutionary. We weren't alone. There was a whole wave of startups trying this. Spice, Mesli, Ate Me, a dozen others. The space was hot, and we worked. Nights, weekends, the whole startup mythology. We believed in the vision so deeply that we were willing to do whatever it took. But after 2 years, we had to be honest with ourselves. The technology wasn't ready. Not for what we were trying to do, and not at the scale we needed. And the robotic solutions that existed couldn't deliver on the promise. Not just for us, but across the entire industry. And you can see the graveyard now. Acquisitions that were basically fire sales, pivots, quiet shutdowns. And here's the thing. I still believe we had one of the best approaches out there. And that's not the point. The point is, we loved the vision so much, it made us blind. We kept pushing, iterating, and telling ourselves we could force this into existence if we just refused to quit. But some obstacles aren't meant to be outlasted. Some walls aren't there to test your commitment. They're there to tell you, not this way. Not yet. We had the courage to stop before raising a check from VCs and angels because we realized all the money in the world can accelerate something the world just isn't ready for. I can't show you a 6-month transformation here, but I can show you the graveyard we didn't join. That wasn't quitting. That was agency. So here's the reframe. Willpower is how hard you push. Agency is knowing what to push against. Willpower says, I will not stop. Agency asks, should I even be on this path? For people who've built their identity around never stopping, that second question is terrifying. It feels like betrayal, like you're abandoning everything that makes you you. But here's the truth. Pushing harder on a flawed approach doesn't make you disciplined. It makes you stubborn. And stubbornness disguised as virtue is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make. Michael Gerber made this distinction famous in business. Most entrepreneurs spend all their time working in their business and never work on it. They're so busy grinding through daily operations that they never step back to fix the system creating those problems in the first place. Same thing applies to your life. You can spend all your energy working in your life, pushing through, compensating, grinding. Or you can step back and work on the architecture that's generating your results. Real agency sometimes looks like stopping. It looks like stepping back far enough to see the system you're trapped inside. It looks like asking, is this a problem I should push through? Or a signal I should listen to? So here's the question we're sitting with. How much of your effort is going toward actual progress? And how much is going toward just compensation? Compensation is the effort you spend just counteracting problems created by a broken system. It's the extra hours because your workflow is inefficient. It's the willpower to force yourself into the gym because your schedule makes it hard. It's the energy spent managing symptoms instead of fixing causes. If you're spending 80% of your effort compensating for structural problems, you've only got 20% left for actual forward motion. That's the treadmill. That's why you can work incredibly hard for years and still feel stuck. Here's the actionable version. Think of one area in your life where you've been grinding for a long time without proportional results. One place where effort and outcome aren't matching up. And now ask, not how do I push harder, but is there something broken in the architecture that no amount of effort will ever fix? That question is the beginning of agency. Look, I'm not telling you to stop trying. Discipline matters. Effort matters. But effort is only as good as the direction it's pointed. And if you've been grinding for years and you're still stuck, maybe the answer isn't more willpower. Maybe it's the courage to step back and ask a different question. Not how do I push through this, but why am I pushing against this in the first place? That's real agency. And it might be the thing your willpower has been blocking you from all along. It took me 20 years to figure that out. Hopefully it takes you a little less. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got an arm day to get to. First thing on the schedule, obviously. See you in the next one.